Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, so a couple things. I'll zoom this up so you can actually read it. There we go. So last week I sent out a revised syllabus, giving you our new game plan for the course. So I didn't hear anything back from anybody. I assume that's a good thing. But if we certainly have any questions, that's no problem. What I thought I would do is just to keep things. Give you the Coles notes, a super quick version here. These are the deliverables that are remaining for the course. Okay? So just so you have that front and center, it's right there on the announcements page as soon as you log into the course. You're like, what have I got to do for this course? There it is. Okay? So assignment 2, I originally said December 1st, but I realized people may have some questions still remaining about that assignment. If you have turned it in, that's no problem. You may in effect turn in a second edition, and I will mark the latest submission, right? So that's no problem. That's due December 8th. So that's the pizza assignment with the forms. So did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's due on December 8th. Assignment 3, which I'll review today, is due December 22nd. 2017. I also have to put the year on there just to be super clear, right? Because we're going to wrap into 2018. So labs, what I'm going to do is offer an amnesty on labs, in-class labs. Because all of my lectures are captured on screencast and I provide the in-class lesson files, if you're willing to invest the time, watch the video and do the work, turn in the completed lab, I will give you credit for that. I think fair is fair, right? I just want to see you go through take advantage of the activity and actually do some of that learning, right? So if you've missed one, this is your golden opportunity to circle back and complete those. Project 1 will be due January 12th. Okay, so that may seem like a long time away, but start thinking about that, and I'll review that as well. Instead of having a midterm and a final test, we're going to have one combined final test. However, I don't have the in-class time to deliver that test as an in-class kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is condense test 1 and test 2 into one blended test, and it will be a take-home exam. Now, that's cool. So you could take that any time. I'll open it up at a certain point. But there will be a time limit on it. So once you start it, you'll have one attempt, and the clock will run. So you'll have a certain amount of time to finish those questions. Okay. So, sorry?
Is it a large test?
You'll comfortably be able to finish it very comfortably within 2 hours.
Oh.
So, not small. I wouldn't call it gargantuan, right? But it will be a blend. It will be a kind of a combination of the midterm and the final test. Maybe kind of squash down a little bit. I won't take all of those questions. I'll kind of handpick the majority of them. But what I'll do is I'll give you 3 hours to complete a test, which can very comfortably be done in 2, and most of you will be likely done before that. Okay, so it's designed to be doable, and also it's designed such that the actual act of taking the test, being of course it's an open book test in that context, that will help solidify some of that learning, right? You'll be looking up things that you're like, oh, I think we talked about that to some degree. We did some, but I've got to flip through my textbook or loop back to Blackboard and check it out. So that will of course get you through the materials for the course, and I'll show you our revised syllabus. So please download this if you haven't already. So hang on to a digital copy for yourself. So what I've done is I've kind of shown that editorial process here, whereby labs are the same. Assignment 1 is said and done, so that was handed in and graded. So assignment 2 is now worth 15. Assignment 3 is worth 15. Assignment 4 has been removed. Okay. Project 1 is reduced from 25 to 20. Quizzes are now worth 10%. So those quizzes that are included in every weekly learning module, circle back and do them. They're worth your time, right? And they'll also help you prepare you for that final test 1, I guess we'll call it, because there's no such thing as test 2. And that will get you through. Hopefully my math is reasonable. I think it is. I think it checks out. Brings us to 100%. So the idea here is really just to kind of claw back a little bit in terms of volume, but try and, instead of a dish of meat and potatoes, it's going to be mostly meat, short on potatoes, right? So more keep that quality up, kind of make sure we're just getting the stuff you really need to know. But that's also, I mean, I have the ability to post, and many of these lessons are online as well. So if you wanted to delve further into a topic, certainly we can. So here we go. Here's our post strike with dates. I've been trying to be as specific as I can. So today we'll deal with images and links. You see, I should edit that. That'll be due down here. Next week will be an introduction to CSS, the components of CSS, and then how to leverage that to format text. The following week will be layout. So how do we use CSS to layout user interfaces, pages? The following week will be our JavaScript. We have the 2-week off period, and then when you come back for the last week of the term will be responsive web pages, or what we call mobile design. Okay. That's my revised game plan. Yep. When is the test due? Yeah. It'll be due the last. You can take it up until the last day of the course. Yeah. So I'll open up. I'll probably open it up before we leave on the break, and then it just gives you kind of, you'll have several weeks to kind of just say, okay, I feel ready. I've had a couple of Monsters or Red Bulls. I'm ready to go, right? Whatever is your poison of choice, right? So off you go. So that'll be how we handle that. Okay. So if anyone has any questions at all, I'm cognizant of the fact I want the term to be doable. I want it to be enjoyable. I know it's not the term we imagined, but I want it to be enjoyable. I want you to walk away feeling you really got your value out of this course, and that you're on a solid footing to move forward in this semester too. If you have any concerns at all, in particular about this course, for sure, email me, drop by my office. I'll make time whenever you need to come by, and we'll get you on the straight and narrow. Okay? Any questions on that? If you have questions, you want to ask me after class, that's cool too. Okay? Cool. So let's roll. So we'll head over into learning modules. Turn that off. I did. Okay, we're going to start with module 5, images. Let's fire this up here. If you could download the lesson files zip, so save that link as, or save that target as, or whatever your browser might be. I've got Internet Explorer up here. Pull that down to your lesson module 5 folder for this course. And then make sure, particularly double click on Mac or right click extract all on Windows to make sure you extract all of the contents. Very important. Okay. You can ignore the _ Mac OS folder if you're on Windows. My zip utility insists on including those, I don't know why. And in there we should have an image folder, an index page, and a picture.html. We can work with these locally, so let's head over to a code editor. I'm going to fire up Visual Studio Code on this machine, which is fine. Get rid of the welcome. You can use Atom. You can use brackets. You can use, if you've got Adobe Creative Cloud, you can use Dreamweaver if you want. Sublime. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever code editors you're happy with using. This one's very friendly. Let's open up a file. Most of them have the ability to open up open a folder, or a project file. Or folder is what they call it, or project directory. And open up lesson files as your folder. That should give us the welcome page. So you should be able to see the images that are included here, plus our index page and pictures. We'll fire up index.html. And let's start crunching some code. Awesome. So we're going to talk about images, and the really, I think, important thing to understand about images is that, for the most part, with some exceptions, images are embedded media, right? They are called up and they are placed in the text file that is your HTML. Okay, they're not embedded, or they're not included as part of that data. The HTML page calls those up, and the browser renders them and embeds them in the rendered page. They're a different, what we call a different MIME type. So let's head over here to step 1A. What we're going to do here is embed a simple JPEG image and show you all the moving parts of the image attribute and explain why they're important. So first of all, let's open up this page. We'll just open up locally with really any browser is fine. I'm going to open up. I'll use Internet Explorer. I don't need that page. Control O or Command O will open up a local resource. No, not this one. And fire up index.html in the browser. It should be a blue-ish page with a list of headings. Okay. So line 21-ish, we're going to embed a JPEG image. So we'll use the image element, so it's IMG. In order for the image element to function, you must point to the source of the image data. That's what SRC stands for. We apply a quote, and then you have to have an absolute or a relative path to where that exists. This is we're going to pull up tree-sunset.jpg. So since this here, this index page, with respect to the tree-sunset.jpg, you'll notice tree sunset is inside an image folder. So that path needs to reflect the relative location of the image from the index file. So from here, we have to go into the image directory with a right-leaning slash, not back-leaning, and then we need tree-sunset.jpg. And image is an empty element. So if you're using XML style syntax, which I encourage you to do, you would have the trailing end of character inside the start tag, because there is only a start tag. If you're not using XML style syntax, but HTML4 style syntax, you would just have the trailing bracket. I'll make a case today for why I think it's important to stay with XML style syntax when you're rendering HTML. Go ahead and save that page. Refresh it in the browser. And you should see, if everything works out well, you should see that embedded media then in the page. A couple things about a JPEG. A JPEG is a bitmap, right? The JPEG format, it stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group. So the P, the photograph, when you're wondering about, what is the most appropriate format for a given image, JPEG was built for photographs, right? There's a number of reasons why. We'll zoom in. If you can zoom in on your browser, usually Control or Command plus. We'll zoom that in. You can see here how, as I zoom in first, the image is resolution dependent. And what that means is, there are only so many dots that comprise the image, right? Height and width. It's called the kind of the native resolution of the image. And within those dots, if you were to zoom it up, you're going to lose image fidelity, right? Because it's not going to be able to invent data or pixels as you zoom it up, right? So the image fidelity, the clarity will be lost if you zoom it up as well. And if you crunch it down below its native height and width, you may also get some amount of distortion. Sometimes you've seen a very small image, you're like, something's weird with that image. It's actually a much larger image that's been physically resized down. The other thing that is important to note about the JPEG format is it's a lossy format. Okay, so when you're compressing something, the idea with an image is you want to have the best quality you can get with the smallest possible file size for rapid transfer over a network, right? Particularly when we're getting into mobile, when we have real constraints. So lossy means there is real data loss. So when this picture was taken, likely with an SLR or a fairly high quality camera, it was shot in something called camera raw. That means every pixel on the CCD, on the charge coupled device, which is effectively the digital film now, every pixel would have a color that represented that image through that lens as one of any number of millions of colors. So it's a huge file. Camera raw is massive. If you've ever changed your phone and set your pictures to camera raw, you'll notice your phone memory is gone almost instantly, right? Because there's no lossy compression. Lossy means there is loss of image detail. Now the nice thing about a JPEG, the JPEG format is it looks at the image and says, okay, we should probably try and preserve some of the details, say, in here. But when we get into the kind of the soft sky here, you can see how there's larger blocks so what it does is it kind of averages those larger areas out and makes large squares of simple gradients to discard data. It just does that to save on file size, right? So you can control how aggressively you lose or discard data. It's called, so with JPEG quality, if you ever saved anything as a JPEG, it says, how much compression do you want, 0% or 100%? And you can slide, and that's how aggressive the lossiness of the image is. How much are we discarding, right? You have to be careful. Sure, you discard a lot of this data, you get a small file size, but the quality suffers, right? Sure, we can leave in all this detail, but if we've got a massive file, and that's going to be tough on the end user's mobile data account, right? They won't be very happy about that. So I'll zoom this back out. So the native image of this is, I go to tree sunset here in this, you can see here that this natively, this is 500 pixels wide by 375 pixels in height, and that is the file size. Okay, that's a reasonable file size for, that's not bad for an image of that physical size. So that's kind of the native dimensions of the image. So, however, even though the browser knows when it renders that, most of them, they will render that in the native, they will render it as it should. We can be very specific about that, and we should. So we should say to the browser, what is the height and width? So we'll say width 500. And I forget what the width was. 375 was the height. Just like so. You do not put units of measure in here, so there's no, just 500, it's assumed that it's pixels, and 375, it's, why do we need to do that if it doesn't change anything? Why bother? It's just a waste of keystrokes. I'm just going to get myself carpal tunnel syndrome. Yep.
Would it be because, let's say you're editing it with text, it might overlap on top of the text?
It could do. Yeah, you can cause yourself rendering issues in the page. That's true. Yeah. That depends. Possibly, it depends on the browser. But you could. That's true. You could control some of that. Depending on whether, because we're assuming that the browser is going to render it in its native resolution, but it may not. So this, you're right in the sense that now we're being very prescriptive with the browser saying, render this at X, Y. So I guess the short answer to your question is yes. So that's a good thing. The other thing is for speed. So when the page renders, we have to make sure what happens is the text on the page will render before the embedded images. Okay? And then you've probably seen this before. A page comes in with a bunch of text, and then it starts to jump around as pictures stream in. It kind of reorganizes it, and you're like, whoa, you were reading something, and it jumps around as another picture or a movie comes in. What this does is it stabilizes that rendering. So what it says to the browser, I know this picture may not come in before the text on the page is rendered, but reserve 500 and 375 for render it now as a placeholder for when it comes in. Okay, so it does make that more usable as well and creates a better user experience. So this is the image. It still functions. This is great, but it's not great yet. Okay. Another thing, and this is required. This is absolutely required. Is you must say what is the alternate text-based version of this piece of media, because we're embedding media in the page, right? What if it fails to load, right? What if the person is on a screen reader and they're not looking at pictures, right? So the screen reader says picture, and the person's like, thanks for nothing, right? You have to explain what you intended to drop in there. So in this case, this would be a tree at sunset. And if you wanted to be even more precise, we can also include image attribution. So I used this particular photograph by Chris Sorhay from Flickr, from his photo set here. I also made sure that I was licensed. He was licensing his image out for this kind of use, right? So make sure as well, when you're using a photograph, unless you took it, which is most of the time unlikely, you'll be likely working with photographers or stock images, make sure you have the rights to use it. And largely that means either you have to pay for the right, which is fine. In a commercial capacity, you usually have a budget to do that anyway. Make sure you pay them, or if not paid, you may have to attribute the image. So part of, say, even like something like Creative Commons or royalty-free, part of their agreement, where you source the image, they will say you must attribute, which means give credit to the person who produced it. Right? And that's what I've done here. So make sure you have the rights to use any and all images, and I would say even in your personal work. I know it's a different capacity than doing professional work, but most certainly if you're working in a commercial capacity, make sure you have permissions to use the image. Okay, so that. If I refresh the page, of course, that doesn't change anything, adding the alt or the size. But I'll show you one thing. You can change this. Imagine we change this width to 1,000, and I double this. Oh, I don't know. I'll say 800. I can change the size of this here, and I can stretch it or squash it, right? So I can say, you might have seen this before on a page. That just looks unprofessional when people do that, right? So make sure that when you're adding a, you're setting the height and width, you're using the native resolution for that image, right? And don't take a file size this size. Maybe you only need an image that's 100 wide by 50 tall. Don't make them download this and then just change the size in the HTML. Because now you're making them download all this data and then just resizing it in the browser. That's cruel and unusual. That's mean. It's not nice. Right? That's being a real jerk. Particularly, you know your mobile data costs you, right? That's not cheap here in Canada, right? That's not nice, right? Sure, our mobile carriers like that, but not our users, right? So use the, if you need a smaller image of this, go into an image editor, resize it, resave it in a smaller size. Downsample the image, okay? And don't stretch or squash things using that. That's not cool, right? That's the person who produced the image would not be pleased with that, right? That's their artistic property. Oh, edit, redo. Cool. All right, step 2. A GIF image embedded with IMG. All right, our next format is graphics interchange format, or GIF. GIF image, it was an older format. It was a proprietary technology owned by a company called CompuServe, right? A very long time ago, they actually had a patent on it. So if you built a piece of software that output images with the GIF format, that the person who authored that software, maybe it was Corel Draw or Corel Paint or Photoshop, or whatever, they would have to pay royalties to CompuServe. So they made money on that, right? It's no longer encumbered by a patent because the patent has expired. Okay? We still use GIFs in a number of ways. Most often, GIFs are used for their frame-by-frame animation capabilities, right? But you can use it as an image as well without animation. So we'll try that right now. So in the same way, we'll create an image element. The source this time we will go into. The Chrome icon.gif is what it's called. So we'll go into the image folder and we'll say chrome.icon.gif. I'll put the alternate text right in here right away. Chrome icon. I'll close out that. Let's go and find out what our native resolution is, 500 by 500. It doesn't really matter what order you have the source, the alt, or the height and width. You can put them in any order you wish. Oops. I'll zoom this in. Okay. Let's really crank it up here. There. Zoom that thing in. Take a look at it. Right? So graphics interchange format, the way that largely that this file format saves on file size to make these images, this media download faster, is not by discarding image clarity. Right? It's not. Generally, we don't use lossy compression on GIFs. We reduce the number of colors used to render the color. So whereby a JPEG could consist of millions of colors in the color table, a GIF will only consist of a maximum of 252 colors. 256, I guess, if you include some. So we're talking a very small number of colors used to it. And that's why you get this kind of weird kind of like speckly pattern. This is called dithering. Ever heard of that term before? You might have heard people mention that in passing, but dithering is really an attempt by the software fake or cheat and achieve a color that it really doesn't have a color for. So there's a nice gradient from a certain color of yellow to this other color of yellow, which in a JPEG could do that very nicely, because JPEGs are well suited for soft gradients, right, as we've seen. Not so much GIF. The other thing about GIF is transparency. So obviously, you know, the file is a square, right? But we can see the background of the page through this part of the image. GIFs can only do what's called alpha transparency. The pixel is either transparent, you can see right through it, or it's solid. You can't, right? So when we get into, that's why you get, you might see a picture or an image where there's like rough-looking edges around it, or you might get ghosting, where they built the image against a white background, and then they put it on a colored background, and there's like, it fades to white, but then you got these little white chunks around here. Or this one, you've got little brown or black chunks around here, right? That's called ghosting. So this image maybe was built, or they intended to put a drop shadow on it or something. GIF can't do it. It can't do partially transparent pixels. That's a very big limitation of the file format. It's an older file format. Doesn't mean it isn't any good. It just means, just be aware that it can't do partial transparency. GIF, 8-bit, graphical interchange format. Okay. Step 3, let's take a look then at 8-bit PNG with transparency. So what if I could do this image, but have the pixels along the edge fade into whatever background color it found itself on top of by using a transparency gradient, right? So that's what we call alpha transparency. The alpha channel is how transparent is a color, right? So our colors, we have how much red, how much green, how much blue, and then also alpha, how much transparency or translucency, right? Where 100% is solid and 0% is completely see-through. So let's we'll add this one here in this case under step 3. Let's say image source equal the image directory, and we're going to pull down the chrome-icon.png. And chrome-icon.png is, again, 500 by 500. Reload the page and compare the two. So here we have a PNG, portable network graphics. And a PNG is, it's kind of like a GIF in most respects, with one important distinction is that it is an open source. So it is not encumbered, it never was encumbered by patents. So it's kind of like we all own the PNG format, right? Portable network graphics. It can be lossy, so it can use that kind of JPEG algorithm to discard data if you want. But it can also include transparency. Typically an 8-bit GIF or PNG with the same color depth as a GIF cannot do alpha transparency. So this is an attempt to do a drop shadow. Right? If we really wanted a drop shadow, we would have a nice kind of gray that was sort of see-through. You can kind of see the blue behind it. But when we don't have alpha transparency, we have to use dithering. It's called transparency dithering. That's nasty, right? What's that all? So that's a limitation often of 8-bit formats, right? Now, a PNG can do 8-bit, with 8-bit color depth, can do alpha transparency. But only, there aren't too many image editors that can actually do that. There was one by there was an image editor. Photoshop, save for web dialog, cannot do 8-bit PNGs with alpha transparency. There was a software called Fireworks with the Adobe package, and they've kind of discontinued the software, but it was able to kick out 8-bit PNGs with alpha transparency, which was really cool. But it's gone now. Well, you can still find it, but it's they're phasing that product out. So that's cool. There's our 8-bit with transparency. Now let's take a look and say, okay, what if the PNG format included alpha transparency? I should put alpha in here. This is what we call binary transparency, really, for lack of a better term. But what about alpha transparency? What does that look like? Okay, well, image src equal, in this case, we're going to pull up the COMP1002.ping. Punch that in, or just copy the above element and add the number 2. Nothing like working hard, not smart, right? Okay, so here I'll zoom this back to. So there's our PNG 8-bit. And refresh page. And here it is with 24-bit color and alpha transparency. See, obviously, you can see a much nicer result, right? That's cool. So also the gradient, there's no more dithering here, right? Because it has so many more colors. 24-bit colors. Now we're talking about, I think we're into millions of colors, right? Versus 8-bit, where you're into 256 colors. So I can obviously make that, you can see a little bit of banding there, slightly, but it's obviously. Now you're like, okay, well, why would I use this all the time? Well, I'll show you. So here's our Georgia or Chrome icon. The file size is 19 kilobytes. This one is 130.22. That's a bandwidth buster. So now, Houston, we have a problem, right? This is great, but so I can have it all, but not really, right? So there's this constant. It's kind of like a scale, right? You can have great quality, but it comes with big file size. You can have super speedy graphics, but they look crappy, right? So where is that kind of middle ground? Let's head back here. Now, so what we could do is we could say, okay, what if I could offer that icon here in an 8-bit format and have, instead of that dithered shadowing, what if it could do that in an 8-bit format? Well, there are lots of online tools. Compressor.io is just one of them. So spark this up in a tab. Copy this URL in a tab. We're going to go and visit this very cool utility, and there are tons like it. So I make this does not amount to an endorsement, but this is a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool utility. Okay, so let's try it. Let's select our file. I want you to upload in the image folder. I want you to bring in that huge 24-bit PNG, which is ChromeIcon2.png, that 130 kilobyte monster. Open that up. Okay. So the utility is announcing an 82% reduction in file size. That's great if I get reasonable, if it looks okay, right? So let's download the file. Be mindful of some of these utilities, of course. You want to make sure that they're legitimate. Otherwise, you could be having some fun with spyware, adware, or whateverware floating around on your machine. My desktop. And I'm going to save this as, yeah, it's COMP1002-compressor.png. So save it as a different name in the images folder. And it should be there now in your list. So there it is here. Let's go ahead, I'll copy this same tag here instead of typing all that again. And I'll compare it, I'll paste it in here. And so this is called COMP1002-compressor. What's your spelling? Save that. Thank you, compressor.io. That's cool. Reload said page. Wow. So here's the 132 kilobyte version. Here's the compressed version. You can probably see a little bit of difference, right? You can see a little bit more banding in the yellow and the green in this gradient. You can see the drop shadow. Yeah, it's alpha transparent. There's partially transparent pixels there. It's not quite as smooth as that, but we're down at 23.69 kilobytes. That's an 8-bit version with alpha transparency. If you can convince me that it's that I'm better to eat 132 worth of, or 130 kilobytes worth of bandwidth versus this at 23, all right. So that looks pretty good to me, right? So always be mindful of quality and file size, right? Have to be mindful of that. You know, we can say, well, you know, everyone has access to broadband. No, they don't. They really don't. We have to always act as if bandwidth is a real limited resource, right? Because you never know when a person is, you know, away from their desk. They've got a spotty Wi-Fi connection. They're on a really slow 3G network. You know, be kind to people. So there you go. PNG, portable network graphics. This format of graphic of bitmap is so popular, in fact, that Microsoft adopted it as the de facto image standard format for Microsoft Office. Right? That's how successful this was. So my advice here in this case is if you have a graphical image, right, portable network graphics, so something that has large areas of color, is illustrative in its quality, is it kind of a logo type sort of thing, or a drawing or an illustration rather than a photograph, I would stick with GIF or PNG. And I think there's clear advantages with PNG over GIF unless you need to animate, right? As we've seen. So PNG has alpha transparency, and which is a big deal, right? Particularly with 8-bit. That's pretty neat. Yeah. So JPEG's great for photographs, but a JPEG also cannot do transparent pixels at all. Like whether they're alpha transparent or otherwise, there is no transparency in a GIF. So if you need an image on your page and it's a photograph, say it's a photograph of a snowboarder, right? Doing a big jump, flying through the air, and you want that kind of situated on top of your page, on top of some other graphics, then you have to extract the background from the snowboarder, And you can't save that as a JPEG, you have to save it as a PNG because you need the transparency. So you can use photographs with GIFs or PNG, but you do that when you need the transparent feature. Step 3C. Okay, yeah. Okay, so so that's all right. Let's head over to SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. So step 4A, an SVG image embedded with IMG. So we're going to create an IMG element, image, and the source for this one in this case, that's not helpful. In this case is going to be our, got the PNG? No. Logo. Which one did I intend? I guess it's Georgian logo, yeah. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Source equal let's go to the image directory, Georgian-logo.svg. Okay, leave out the height and width for now. Scalable vector graphics. Heck. Why? How? What would I do with this? Right? The interesting thing about this is it's not a bitmap, right? So bitmaps is where you have basically a square canvas full of dots or pixels that are consisting of different colors. It's a mosaic, right? An SVG is a series of mathematical equations that are used to describe a series of shapes or forms through curves, simple primitives like squares, rectangles, or fancy Bezier curves that can be described arithmetically. So let's take a look and see what our SVG looks like. So there's our Georgian logo. And if you go to the Georgian website, the logo itself, we're actually using vectors for this. So what's the difference between a vector and a bitmap? Well, at first glance, here I'll zoom this. Okay, so here's a vector, and here's a bitmap, or this one, right? They both look pretty sharp, right? Why would I use that over the other? Okay, well, let's start zooming it up. No idea how much I've zoomed that in. Quite a bit. There's the bitmap. There's the vector. Because the vector is not made up of dots, you can zoom that as big as you want. That could be the size of Ontario. It will still be perfectly crisp and sharp with no additional file size. So you size up a bitmap, you include more dots. You have more file size. You size up a vector, it's scalable, right? That's like the difference. So you can imagine if I drew a circle out of dots. I'm not very good at this. I wasn't very good at an Etch-a-Sketch when I was a kid. So if you can imagine this circle out of dots, right? And I have to have a grid, of course, like this. Blah 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 blah. Right? Not a very good circle, is it? You get the idea. Right? So this could be, I don't know, maybe the radius would be 20 pixels, right? So that would be describing that in a bitmap. If I was to describe this in a vector, I would just say the radius is 20. Go around how many radians or 360 degrees and fill this in with a color. So this set of instructions, I have to plot out the color and the location of each pixel for a square. There's a lot more data involved in doing that than this. Now, say I want this to be R500. I add a couple of zeros into this set of instructions. There's virtually no increment to the file size. If I want this to be R500, now we're talking about a massive increase in file size. That's the difference between vector and bitmap. They're fundamentally different ways to describe images, right? This is awfully tough to describe photographs with. Not that they're not trying, believe it or not. They're actually trying to create an algorithm that describes a photograph in a series of vector points. They're finding it's a challenge. But I don't know. We might get there. Right? There may be certain advantages to that. There is a point where you have a very, very complicated illustration where you might find you can describe it in a bitmap a little better than a vector. Right? Generally speaking, though, when you're dealing with illustrations of a graphical nature like logos and things like that, vector is a better way to go. The file size is for the most part, very, very lightweight. The other thing, it's scalable. And that's important, particularly as we're in a mobile-first environment now, right? So this is great. I can use this. I don't have to, resample another image for this. I can use the same file for this and then scale it up for that. Right? Very easily. So vectors, if you have access, the tough thing with a vector is it's difficult sometimes to get vector artwork. So if you're working on a file, say you're working in a co-op and you're working in a rather large organization, you're building a user interface for some sort of public-facing web utility or form. You're like, I need the logo. Sometimes getting the vectors for that is really tough. Sometimes all you're going to get is and even worse, you're going to get a graphic in a JPEG, which is the wrong format for a graphic. Right? They're for photographs, not for things like logos and word marks. So scalable vector graphics. Here's the other thing about SVG is we can also embed SVG in line. So whereas this here, the PNG, it's a separate file. It's a bitmap file. Bitmap files are often in binary format too. They're not even in a text file, right? But if we look at the Georgian logo.svg, click on that here, it opens up the file in the text editor. Why? Because SVG is actually made up of extensible markup language. It's XML, a very similar language to HTML. In fact, here is your document type declarator. You know, you have doc type HTML, there's doc type SVG. Right? This is pretty cool. So what I can do here is I can copy, I don't need the doc type, I don't need lines 1 to 3, but I can copy lines 4, I can get my cursor in there, and I can grab that entire SVG element, start tag to end tag, I can copy this, I can head over to index, and I can paste the SVG directly into my HTML as text. In this case, it's not embedded, it's actually integrated with the content. Don't believe me? That's cool, you shouldn't. There it is. I don't have to reference it externally because it's actually part of the document. It's text. It's described, and these are so these are the different paths for each of the letters, right? With the fill colors, and it's cool. I mean, you can manipulate SVGs with CSS if you want, which we'll talk about later. Okay? Scalable vector graphics, very, very cool technology. The support is fantastic. If you need a graphic, a logo, a brand, a word mark, something, try and get the vector files in an Illustrator or an InDesign file or EPS and output them to SVG to use in your web work. It's so much easier, so much more flexible, so much more lightweight, it just looks so good, so crisp, right? Do it. You don't, PNG as a second choice, right? If you have to. But vectors if you can do it. Cool. Another thing that's super cool is, yes, SVGs can be optimized. So I won't do that now for purposes of expediency today. But you can head over to, so if you look at this, this SVG file, for example, and you're like, wow, this is a super long file, right? You can actually run this up through an optimizer and trim this code down and make it even lighter weight, which is crazy. These things can come down blazingly fast. Really cool, right? So scalable vector graphics, a great technology. So I'll leave that. I'll leave that for now. Cool. So proceed to picture.html. Okay, we'll see how fast we can get through picture.html. So we'll head over to picture.html here. Okay, so we've used the image element. What other elements can we use for images? Well, you can use something called the picture element, which is a rather new addition to the markup language, to the specification. How does this work? So inside the body here, we'll build the picture element. So make sure you have picture.html open in your page or in your code editor. We'll open that also in the browser, whatever browser you want. Okay, should just say nothing here. Okay, so inside the body, I'm ignoring all the other content that might exist on this page, right, for purposes of simplicity. So let's tab in here and hit picture. And I'll close the picture element just before auto format. So open and close the picture element just like so. I'll turn this on to word wrap. There we go. Cool. So inside the picture element, we're going to create. We're going to make this so that the picture is. We're going to show another feature of pictures whereby you can make the picture more responsive to the visitor's viewing environment or device that they're using, for example. So let's. We'll create. First of all, we're going to create a source tag. Source. So source there. Okay. Okay, just like the image had a source attribute, we now have a child node of the picture node that is actually source. So the source tag has two attributes. One is the src set, source set, equal to. In this case here, we want the kitten large.png. So from here we need to go to the image directory, kitten-large.png. And the next thing is we define when we use the kitten large. So when do we set the source of our image to kitten large? We do this when the media, so this is called a media query, is equal to, and we put this in parentheses, or soft brackets, what I sometimes call them. We say min-width, colon, 650px. Close that, and we will close the source element. Oops. I'll close this so you can see what I did here. So there in blue is the source element. So for large screen sizes, we'll use the source, we'll set the source set, to kittenlarge.ping. And by large, I mean when the screen is a minimum of 650 pixels or bigger. Okay. What if it's a little smaller? So let's set a medium one. Copy this out here. Instead of typing that again, paste that under step 5D. Well, I guess I went out of order, didn't I? Yeah. Step 5B. Whoops. That's all right. We'll end up at the same spot. So in this case, if at minimum width, let's say 465 or larger, 465. So if the screen is 465 CSS pixels or larger, we're going to go to kitten-medium. Did I call it medium? Kitten medium, yeah. .paint. Now, the final one, so the basic fallback, we use a plain old image element. We set the source to equal to, in the image folder, kitten dot dash small dot png alt equal kitten. And what size is this crazy kitten? 330 by 285. 330 by 285. So you can imagine away those HTML comments in green. You have a picture element is the kind of encapsulating element or node. And inside there I have two source nodes, one for super large, so anything above 650. We're going to set the source down here to large. If it's above 465, we'll set this source to source set to that. If it's otherwise, we'll just render that. If it's below 465. Let's try it. Let's find cat. There's the cat. Arr. No work. Let's try a different browser. I got Firefox installed in here. Nope. No Chrome for me. So the trouble here is if I if I name these, set these height and widths, obviously with the large one, then I've kind of messed up the aspect ratio of the picture. So what I can do in this situation is I can leave that out. Oops, where's my Chrome? If I do that, then of course, so now depending on the size of the screen, I have an adaptable piece of media, right? picture. So that's one advantage to using the picture element. It's a newer element. This is from a terrific spot on the web called HTML5 Rocks. So if you want to look at interesting things you can do with pure markup just for UI, different UI components, that's a great place for a ton of good resources. So let's here to finish up. Let's go back to index, and we're going to put in the picture element code right here. So we'll grab the picture element from picture.html. And I'll put that into my index page. Whoops, I grabbed something else there. Watch your formatting. So make sure that formatting on your left margin communicates the nested nature of that element. So I'm looking for this in your code, right? If you have a tag that's nested inside of another one, show me that in the left margin, right? You'll thank yourself. And so this particular version of IE, does anyone have Edge running? Has everyone got Edge up and running? Did Edge support the picture element? Anyone got a copy of Edge? I don't have Edge on this machine. Try it. Try and fire this up in Edge and see if the cat you get the cat to work in Edge. So as the picture element is kind of a newer element, and support for that is growing. Yeah, it works okay in Edge. So it's just a matter of this particular dusty old IE. I think it's IE 10 on this thing. It's not quite up to date. So that's cool. I'll open up and take a look at there. And where did my cat go? Where's my cat? There's my cat. I put a cat on the internet. There, I did it. Don't tell anybody. All right, so there we go. The picture element. Animated. Okay, so the last thing we're going to hit up here is the animated GIF with transparency. So let's go back to index.html. From logo. No, we won't get into APNG. So so this all said, GIFs, if I need something to be animated, yes, PNGs can do frame-by-frame animation, sort of. It was a proposed technology that people had supported and tried to kind of get off the ground. I don't really know where that is, but by and large, GIFs are used when we need to do frame-by-frame animations. This is basically a snapshot of different bitmaps arranged visually, kind of like a set of flip cards, right? And you just have a timer. So, for example, let's put in an image here containing a spinner. So src equal image dash arrow dash spinner dot GIF. So there's a very, very basic kind of frame-by-frame animated GIF. See, it's not very smooth, right? I might propose nowadays, if you need to add a user interface component, something like that, what you would do is you would use, for example, if I needed this to sit on top of the page, you can see how I needed it to be, the background to be transparent, so the spinner would sit on top of the page. You often see this if you have like something like an Apple TV, you boot it up, you have that little like spinner thing. Sometimes they look kind of crusty around the edges, that's because they're using a GIF, right? They put it on a colored background. I would say, build this in SVG and animate it with JavaScript. Then it can just smoothly twirl, right? So I don't know. GIFs have their uses, they do, but I think as browser support for better media comes into play, we can do things simpler and better with less. GIFs can be very heavy too in terms of bandwidth, because you have, for every time you have a frame, you have a whole other bitmap, right? So they can quickly become very large in file size. Why not just animate something like this with a little snippet of JavaScript? So there you go. So there's your foray into images and how we build them out, how we include them, embed them in HTML. I didn't do too bad. It's 1:15. That's okay. Let me find my Blackboard page. Okay, so for Lab 5, if you could take for credit, because I'm going to have you do 2 labs today. So I've kind of, this one we'll kind of cheat. We'll do a cheat on this one. So if you take a look at your lesson files for the image, if you right-click on that and just send to a compressed or zipped folder. Right, or right-click, compress, or what does OS 10 say? Compress items in the Finder. Yeah, right-click on it and say let me see. No, that's not it. Compress is what they call it. So compress that into a zip file. Upload that up for credit for Lab 5, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll move into links, hyperlinks, after you get back, after you find yourself a coffee or whatever. Okay. Cool. Okay, so make sure you spin through Chapter 5, Images and Image Formats for the Web. It's a very good chapter. They go into a little bit more into some of the detail about color depth and image formats and emerging formats like WebP, which you might want to be cognizant of. Once you've done that, click on Mark Reviewed. Quiz 5 is worth marks, right? So finish Quiz 5. You have as many attempts as you want to get that. That's based on what we did on class here and also on the reading. So it also prepares you for the test, for test 1. So make sure you take the time to spin through this, the required reading, Chapter 5, answer Quiz 5, and you're good. That is Module 5. Learning modules. Now we're heading on to Module 6, links. So really we're going to take a look at links. We're going to cover a little bit about how to build a well-structured, what we call an anchor element. What's the difference between absolute and relative URLs, right? How do we point to different resources and in different ways? How do we use links to craft, or how do we use them to properly navigate resources, navigate websites, web applications? So what are some of the considerations when using them as navigation tools? Looking at not only moving from page to page or resource to resource, but within a page, how do I do that with anchors? And how do we build textual content that helps with SEO, search engine optimization, usability, accessibility, and all those other things that are so mission critical when it comes to web apps nowadays. How do we do that? So there's a lot of little things here that add up to to something huge. And even seasoned web developers, I'm going to show you some things today that even seasoned web developers miss, right? So proving yet again that you can always learn something, right? No matter where you're at in your kind of journey. But we're going to show you how to build absolutely incredible links. So pull down lesson file 6.zip. We can work locally as well here. That's fine. Extract the lesson file 6. Double click on OS 10 on Mac. Again, my Mac compression utility includes a system direct. You can get rid of the underscore Mac OS X if you are in Windows. In Mac, you won't see it. And you should have a folder called bricks. Head over to your code editor. You can close this one here. I can close out of my files. Bye, kitty cat. Open the new folder, which is called bricks. And bricks should include three directories, CSS, images, and legal, and then 5 files, 5 HTML templates. Okay. Fire up index.html in your editor. And open up the same page, index.html, in a local browser. Making sure that you don't open the compressed directory if you're on Windows. You should see a page that looks like this. All right. So this is index.html. So what we have here is a doc type that you're probably not used to seeing. And I did this on purpose. Thankfully, it won't be too much longer that we have to look at things like this. This doc type is for an old version of HTML called XHTML1. So this is an older, this is back when we decided that we were going to modernize the HTML language and give it some more, give it a bit more structure in terms of rules, in terms of syntax, so that it was either right or wrong kind of thing. So it's where we reformulated HTML using the syntactical rigor of XML, which is extensible markup language, which is also a web technology. So this was a kind of a cool thing. It kind of made people a bit nervous, but anyway, we had the web world adapted. The XML namespace is located here at this link here, so you can read all about that namespace for that set of those tags or elements in XHTML. And the interesting thing about when you're using XHTML, it's actually XML. Just like when we looked at the SVG file a little earlier, that is also XML, right? They're both extensible markup language. In that respect, there's some duplication here. For example, you have to define, for HTML, you have to define the base language, or you should on the HTML node, right? But if you're using XHTML or XML, right, you also have to do it in the XML syntax. So these actually do the same thing. One is for XML, one is for HTML. With HTML5, we don't need to worry about all that craziness. Also, you look at the character encoding meta tag. This is the longer format that was for XHTML, right? In HTML5, it's just meta char set equal UTF-8. Done. It's much simpler, much shorter, so we don't need to use it. But you are going to see this stuff out there in the wild, XHTML. So I want you to at least know what it is, and modernizing it is not just a simple matter of changing the doc type out, just swapping that out and saying, I'm done. It's HTML5. It's not that easy, right? It's not that simple. Anyway, I digress. So we'll move along. Other than that, it's largely the same thing. So we're going to go here. Step 1. I've already done this for you. Is we're going to link to a style sheet. So what we're doing, what's happened here, is this document. I've used a link element. We're going to talk about linking to style sheets, whether we're embedding style sheets in the HTML, where we put visual styles in the head section, or whether we link to an external file like this. We'll talk about this in the next lesson. Suffice it to say that all of the visual styles for this page that you see, like the blue background, the white background to the page, how this list of here functions as tabs, how the H1 is substituted for an image, how my H2 is kind of in white and slid off to the side here. All of this is governed by a set of visual style rules which exist in a separate file from our HTML. So that all exists in CSS/styles.css. So all those rules are in here. Okay? Not to worry, we're not going to get into styles.css, but I thought it would be more fun to make this microsite, which is in fact what we're working with now, a little easier, a little more fun to use. So step 1, link to the style sheet. So if we head over here and we click on, if I go from the home page to the red bricks page, you'll see that the page is largely unstyled. It isn't technically unstyled. HTML, or the browser, has a basic style sheet, which meaning the H1 is a little larger, of course, than the H2s, as we know. So there's some basic styles just for you to get a sense of the structure, right? Let's also style this page so it looks nice like the home page. So let's open up red.html. You'll see it looks largely the same as index. And step 1, I'll add a link element. The hypertext reference to that is to that style sheet is from here. We choose a relative path or a relative URL. From here, we go into the CSS directory and then down to get styles.css. So from here, we go CSS/ That alone doesn't do it. Or when we're linking a style sheet, we also have to say, what is the relationship or rel of this linked file? So rel. And that's because the link element is actually used for a number of other purposes. Most commonly, it's to link style sheets externally, but it can be used for other purposes. We have to define, why are we linking that file through that hypertext reference? Well, we're using it as a style sheet. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Then the browser's like, oh, that's cool. So it pulls it up, uses the rules to render the page.
Does it not matter what order it's in? Index.html is the browser first.
Oh, the order? No, it doesn't. Yeah, that's a good question. No. It's kind of like image that way. Doesn't care. Should you be consistent? Yeah, you probably. Yeah. I'm not going to give you the gears if you're flopping those around page to page. As long as they're there and they're structured properly, that's fine. So then let's go to red here, and you'll see that they actually point to the very same page, right? Which governs the style rules for both of them. So that's cool. So go ahead and add that same tag to the green bricks page and the blue bricks page. So in the same way, I'll open up green. What I might do is just copy this, because the path, all of these pages point to the very same style sheet. I don't need to duplicate those styles in each of those pages. They can all point to the same set of style rules because they're styled similarly. Why duplicate that code, right? In programming, we call this dry. Don't repeat yourself. Work smart, not hard. So Copy that, go to green, paste that, save. Green should be good, and then head to blue. All 4 pages now powered by the same style sheet. Cool, that's good. You might have to toggle word wrap in here. Now head over into index.html. On index, now if you have any unsaved changes, usually your code editor will offer, there'll be a little blue dot or an asterisk or something. So always be mindful if you're working with multiple templates or files in your code editor, you may have done some work and not saved some amount of your work, and then of course something's not working. Oh, that's the first thing to check. Make sure you've applied those changes. If we go to index now, the home page, and we head down here, down to step 2, somewhere around about line 28. Add an external hyperlink to Lego's website. So we're going to link out to lego.com. Very cool site. So let's go ahead. We'll say, all right. We'll say click here, go to cool. So right here after step 2, add some text that we can use as a hyperlink. Yep.
I don't know what step 2. Yes.
Make sure you've got index.html open, because they all look very similar. Yeah, all of the templates look like incredibly similar, and because they're written in like Greek text, they're largely unintelligible. Yeah, sorry. That can be a bit confusing. You can, if you want to keep things simple, we can close these other ones too. So we only got the one open that we need. That might keep you on the straight and narrow. Okay, so after step 2 on index.html, type in some simple text here, and we're going to go use this, surround this word, click here with an anchor element. There you go. That's what I want. A means anchor. Anchor. So up at the top, we built a link element in the head section, and that we used to bolt on a style sheet. And now we want to build a hyperlink, and we're using an anchor element. How straightforward is that? Right. Yes? Some things are designed to be confusing by nature. Anyway, the anchor element, usually it's called an anchor because we anchor a piece of text, and we use that as a kind of a node across a network to which to hop to, right? So we use that as a, and we embed certain information in that, and that anchors, if you can imagine them, we use metaphors, right? Imagine when you're throwing an anchor, you usually attach a rope to it, you throw it in, it anchors itself elsewhere, maybe to the bottom, and now you've got a rope, so you've got a way to get to that anchor, right? So it's almost like, it's just another metaphor to try and help people understand what it is technically we're doing. The anchor element really, this is the element that largely is responsible for the success of the open web, right? The ability to link two documents together across a network. That's what changed everything. I mean, we could create all these documents as standalone pages, and that was great. We'd have to memorize where their location was on the internet and type that in. That's great. But if we couldn't link between documents, what would be the point? Right? This is why we call it a web. It's a web of interconnected resources, right? Spanning many, many networks and different nodes and different protocols. And so this humble anchor element is really the one thing that kind of changed everything. Right? So, but far too often these things are built so badly, it's embarrassing and it's shameful and it's sad. And I'm going to show you why. So very often it's just a missed opportunity. Okay? You'll be walking away today with a lot of great little pieces of information here that will allow you to build not just good links but incredible links. Okay? This is poorly done so often. So here's a link. Click here. We'll save that. Let's go over here onto the index page and have a look and see what this looks like. And there's my text, but I can't click it. All right? What piece of missing information? What haven't I provided for this link? A destination, right? Like where are you linking to, right? So we have to add an attribute to this called href. We've already seen that in the link element before, which means hypertext reference. Href equal, and we'll go HTTP, which is the protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, colon, // As soon as you add this to an href, the browser recognizes that as an outbound URL, Uniform Resource Locator. Okay? A URL is the reference for a resource in a standard format that includes a protocol. So this is the protocol we're using to browse to that. Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and we're going to say lego.com. Close the quotes. Save, Control S, reload page. Okay. There we go. Now we're kind of getting somewhere. Go ahead. We'll click there. We'll click here. Off we go to Lego. Very cool destination on the web. That's great. Yeah.
And do we decide if the link is to be open on the same tab or tab?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, we do.
Have we just not gotten there yet, I guess?
What's that?
We just haven't gotten there.
Well,
Not jumping there.
it's a really good question. Yeah, I guess in short, I'll cover that in a second. There's a number of things to consider. So that's cool. Now, let me see if I'm going to open up another browser here. Yeah, I'll open up this. Okay. So let me open up this page as well here on Internet Explorer. You can open it up on Edge or whatever you want. I don't care. File 6, bricks. Where's my index page? Okay. Yeah. Okay. 12 steps to open a page. All right. Click here. Off I go. So I want you to look at this, and I think to some degree the interface for Firefox is the same. What is the biggest button on this piece of software? Look at all the controls for this browser, not the controls on the website. Look at that. Why is that button so big? It's the most used button ever. Ever. Right? It's big because that's the one we're looking for. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay? Yeah, so much so. And I think Firefox, they may have changed the browser. The browser Chrome's change constantly. But I think Firefox for a time was larger. I'm not sure if it is now, depending on your. They come up with a new. And if you haven't tried Firefox Quantum, try it. It's awesome. Really fast. And apparently the security in that browser is second to none. So if you haven't had a chance, download the new Firefox Quantum. You'll be glad you did. It's really cool. I think the back button on Quantum is bigger than the forward button. The reason is, yeah, because that's what people are looking for. So also look here. Now that I came back, notice how the link before was blue. It wasn't just like a regular blue. It's like an, oh my God, I'm blue. You're like, whoa, geez, it burns into your eyes, right? Kind of blue. We can change all that in CSS and make it look better. But the reason they do that is wayfinding. It's a technique called wayfinding. So this is browsers are built this way. Now we're back here and it's in purple. We know the difference between a blue and a purple link. It's part of our visual lexicon, our visual culture now, right? We know that I've visited. We know I've been there because it's no longer blue. It's a different color than the other links on the page. That's a good feature of a page. A lot of designers try and design that away and make visited links the same color as unvisited links because they don't like the different looks. But really, you're breaking a primary usability feature of a browser, which is to show the person where they've been so they know better where to go from here, kind of thing, right? Just like when you're on a map, you are here. So that's all right. And that's fine. It went out there. It headed out to the destination, and it came back. So this back button isn't bigger than this one, but it sure is a prominent piece on the... so you can see this is also purple. So this link sucks. I mean, it sucks. I mean, in so many ways, it sucks. It's just so bad, and I'll show you why. So I don't want you to see you guys building links like this. This is awful. First of all, it's a missed opportunity. The text, click here. I want you to imagine, being blind and navigating this website audibly through a screen reader, and then the screen reader comes in and it says link, click here. Are you going to follow that link? You invest the time in following it only to have another page read out and go, that's not what I wanted, because the thing has to read the page to you, right? This text here should contain the keywords that describe the destination, right? Also, think about this from a search bot, right? The bots from the search engines are going to be spidering this page. They want to see, you want your page to be relevant for a given search term, say Lego, right? If you have an outbound link, instead of it says click here, because it's evaluating the text inside this anchor node differently than the text inside a paragraph. It's like, oh, this is an outbound link. This tells me a little bit about the relationship of this page to other resources on the web, right? So what we should do is we should say Lego we should include that. We should say visit the Lego website. You see the difference? This kind of breaks to a new line. It's unfortunate. But you see how now I've got the phrase Lego as the text node in the outbound anchor. It's a better link. So the word Lego is now part of that, right? 1 point. The word Lego is part of the outbound URL as well. So that's 1, 2. 2 points, right? SEO, search engines have they run on it's an algorithm, it's a series of heuristics that determine page relevance. And they're looking at those outbound URLs and they're looking to see how accessible they are, how well built they are, and how much they incorporate those keywords, right? So save that, look at the page in again. See how much clearer that is? There's no doubt that if I click this, I will go to the Lego website. Right? There's another feature that many browsers will have, particularly in a desktop scenario. Not so much in a touchscreen scenario, but possibly. When you mouse over this, I want you to look down here. This is the status bar. Okay? You may have used this before. You mouse over kind of a shady, kind of questionable link. You're like, that's kind of sketchy. You mouse over that and you look at it and see, where is it going? Right? This reveals oftentimes when you use it, this reveals what's in the href action. Where the heck you're going to go should you click on that. That's why having clean URLs are really good for usability. Right? Having great big long complicated URLs with a lot of URL parameters and messy stuff, it's no good. Lego's done a good job, lego.com. Now, technically speaking, with your URL, I'll go back to the URL hill. For a top level page, so we want to go to the top level of Lego, the home page, for lack of a better term, we should have a trailing slash after the canonical domain. Right? So after lego.com, I should have a trailing slash. Not necessary for functionality, but for good form, that should be there. I don't see that done well, hardly ever. But it should be that way. It should be done that way, according to me. There you had it. Okay, so that's all right. We still haven't got an awesome link, right? We've got a very okay link. We should add another attribute to this. So the next attribute I want to add is something called a title attribute. Okay. So the title attribute is very, very helpful, particularly if you want to build super friendly, search bot and human friendly links. The title should describe or should explain to the visitor what should happen if they click on this link. Go to the So you don't type crazy stuff in here. You type a simple phrase that describes to a visitor what they should expect if they were to invest the time in clicking through on this link. Don't jam a bunch of keywords in here and try and spam the engine. You'll get punished for that. Okay? So if you think you've come up with a dirty trick to fool a search engine, I guarantee you they thought of that 10 years ago. 10 years ago. The people who work at these search engines, that's all they do. They live this stuff, right? You get a chance to go and talk to some of these folks, it's really cool what they're doing, but they live and breathe it. Don't try and fool a search engine. It won't work. You'll get blacklisted, what they call it, and then it's really hard to get earn your reputation back. Reputation is a big thing online. So that's cool. So if I save that, watch this. If I then head over to the page, reload the page. Now, if I mouse that over that, the tool, what I get in most desktop environments, I get a tooltip, and that tooltip pulls on the text inside the title attribute. That's really, really helpful for usability, all that kind of thing, right? I'm going to open up another tab here. Let's go MDN. Let's take a look at the anchor element as defined by the Mozilla Web Docs. It's a great place to go for. So, if you want to learn about any HTML element, Microsoft has a really good reference for their developer section. Google does. Mozilla Web Docs is huge. So here's a great list. This is the anchor element. It tells you what are the possible attributes that you can have and whether or not they're required or they're optional, right? And what they might do. So remember we also with the link attribute at the top of the page, we defined the relationship for that link, which was a style sheet. Well, we can also use the rel attributes. Go to link types, right? We can say, oh look, external indicates that the hyperlink leads to a resource outside the site of the current page. That is, following the link will make the user leave the site. This is really important. If this is an outbound URL, you should be very clear to people that they are leaving said web application or website. You should be very transparent about that. So what we do, since this is outbound, HTTP, we should then say, okay, we can put this, this can be after the title, we can say rel, relationship equal, external. The other benefit to this is now that we have an external link, we can now render this link. You know, some links are rendered with at the top right, they usually have a little box, a little arrow that goes, and you're like, oh, I guess that looks like I'm headed elsewhere if I do that. We can tag, we can now use this for our style sheet and style external links a little bit differently than inbound or internal links. So that's great. Now that may not, and likely will not, visually change the link, but it does make it more transparent. Some user agents, maybe some phones, may render them differently. They may be rendered differently when the page is spoken. Okay, so that's good. That's all right. Is there anything else I wanted to hit up with that? I think that's pretty good. But now if we take a look, if we think about this from a standpoint of keywords, if you want your page to be more relevant in terms of the word Lego, now we have an outbound link to a website that has a very good reputation online, particularly but we have the word Lego in the href, we have the word Lego in the title, in a human readable phrase, and the word Lego in the text node for the anchor. That's a good link. So think about it. Every time you build a link, think about you're building content for more than one visitor. You're building it for the search bots. You're building it for human beings. Right? You're also building it for browsing software that may do something useful in the future. We want to future-proof our work. There may be features that take advantage of well-built software like this, and where simple things like links could be more accessible. Right? There you go. Step 2, kind of the long version of step 2, but that's important. So make sure you build quality links that include titles, relationship attributes if they're external. Make sure your outbound URLs are crafted properly. Good titles, good text nodes, right? No more click here's. Click here's do not help anybody. Okay, cool. All right, now that I got that off my chest, I feel a lot better. Okay, navigation. So already we can improve this navigation, right? This is very, very basic. Very often, navigation will be for a page, if it's a global navigation for a web application. Likely, often they'll put it inside a div with a class or an ID that says nav or navigation. Or if you're using HTML5, this would be, we'd simply use the nav element like this, right? As we've talked about before. But be aware, if you are using an older version of HTML, which in this case we're using XHTML, the nav element did not exist at that time. Okay, so your page will actually fail validation; it will break. So if that's the case, you need to use something that maybe suggests that functionality, like a div with an ID nav, right? But you can't use a nav. You can't use things like a section or a main element or an article element in XHTML. Those elements didn't exist. They were improvements that were added to the HTML tag set as of HTML5. So, but very often these kind of things inspired the newer elements because people use consistently. For example, div ID nav. That was used millions and millions of times. They're like, when we build a new version of HTML, what do you people want? And they're like, bring us the nav element. So there it was born. So if you're using XHTML, which I hope you don't have to too much in your careers, you can't use some of those newer elements, right? And it's not as simple as just dropping it in because it won't render properly. And very often we have a list. So this is an unordered list, UL. We'll talk about lists a little later and how those are a very flexible element. So lists are contained, in this case I have an unordered list inside a nav element, and each of those list items, LIs, contains a link. So it's a list of links inside a section of the page that is devoted to navigation. Right? Very common. So we'll build ourselves another list item. under step 3, and we'll add ourselves a link to the yellow bricks page, which we currently do not have. We have red, green, and blue, but we don't have our yellow page, right? So let's go ahead and add it. So we'll add an anchor, a href equal. Now here, this is an inbound URL, meaning I'm not leaving the website. So I do not need to put the protocol here, like HTTP. I can if I want. I could put the full, HTTP or HTTPS / my cool building blocks site / yellow.html. I could, but in this case, a relative one. So based on where I am here, the yellow page is right beside it in the same directory. So I can simply type in yellow.html. That's cool. I do not want to put rel equal external. It's not. It's internal. We just leave the rel off the anchor if that's the case. But I've got a useful text node. That's cool. But I should really include title equal all about I should do something like that. I know it seems awfully redundant. Seems like, wow, you're really hitting them over the head with it, right? It is, and it's it takes a little bit extra work. But I should be doing that here, particularly for my global navigation. So this is the global navigation for this website or this microsite. I should be doing this. It's a missed opportunity if I don't. So add a title to each of these. Go. Save that. So make sure I'm on the home page because that's the page I edited. And you should see a yellow bricks tab come up. The style sheet, the CSS styles it in a way that it sits beside the other pages. It handles the hover on it. And if I click on that, everything's cool. I should be able to see the title that I typed up on the tooltip. I should be able to see in the status bar the path to where I'm going. In this case, it's a local because I'm not on a server. I'm on a local file system. Yep.
On my website, when I hit home, the yellow bricks header is there, but if I hit blue bricks or green or red, the yellow disappears.
Got it on all the other pages too.
Yeah. So we're doing this longhand. Yeah. So in a web application, what you've actually pointed out is I've horribly duplicated my code. I've repeated myself, right? So causing a maintenance issue. So now if you add one link to your global navigation, you're going to several different places to add it, right? So now we have to copy this and head over into each of our other pages, blue, and I'll replace, what I'll do is I'll replace all of the stuff inside the UL with my new list item and save it. And then I'll go to green. Get rid of all the stuff between the UL and paste it with my new list of links. Save it. red, and yellow. What this would be in a web application, this would be something called a server-side include. So what I would do is I would not type this on all these templates. I would simply have each of those pages call up and say, hey, go and grab the HTML for the global navigation. Pop it in here. It might exist in a database. If it's a content management system like WordPress or Shopify or Magento or something like that, you wouldn't be typing this out manually. We're dealing with static HTML right now, which is longhand, but it will help you to appreciate how we hack and slash all these little bits and pieces into a web application in terms of templates later. So that's cool. So if all of these are, now they should all include the yellow bricks page. So if I go to green, the yellow brick should be there. Blue, yellow brick should be there. Oops, the yellow page. What did I forget to do on the yellow page? Style sheet. So I'll go and copy it from the red page. There we go. All right. So Matt, you raised that question about staying on the same tab. So I like that one. So this is an interesting thing here, and it'll come back to talking like how I talked about that back button being so big. So let's go to our home page, which is index. I'll close the other one so I don't get lost. So I'm on my index page. I'll go back to, here's the href for the anchor for the yellow bricks. I'm going to add in here. Now I've even forgotten what the attribute is. Target. Target. Thank you. I don't even use it. All right. So target. We'll add the target, and there's a number of different. So I can put in here underscore. Let's put in here underscore blank, which means open in a new window object. Okay. Why in the heck would I do that? So you have to reload the page so that your yellow brick now goes into. So notice how there's, even though I've got a target attribute that said open the destination for this link in a new page, it doesn't, there's no warning that that's going to happen, right? Unless I right click and say open link in new window or a new tab, right? I can right click a link and do that. But if I just click it, it will open up. A lot of browsers will force a new window into a new tab rather than opening a completely new window. Like I can drag this tab away from this and create a new window, right? A lot of times they don't do that. They just simply open, blank will open it, and I can redock that tab in here. But so the problem is now I have left I've left this page and I'm on another page. Now let's say I want to go back. You just made your visitor really mad, right? Now you guys are tech savvy folks, all right? You understand, you recognize that I opened a new tab. You understand that. I want you to think about the rest of the world for which you're largely designing web applications who don't really care what web browser they're using or what operating system. In fact, very often they don't even know what a browser is. They just need to get to the internet. They just need to get to their stuff. They don't care. They'll never care. That's not their job to care. It's your job to care. The fact that you opened a new tab or a new browser on them and the back button doesn't work means that your application is broken. Tech support call. You get some rageaholic foaming at the mouth, freaking out at you. You're like, wow, what did I do to deserve that? Right? Yeah. So you think that's silly, but I want you to step outside of yourself and realize sometimes you're designing things for non-technical people who really have no idea that a new tab or a new window just opened. And now they call tech support, and that costs you money. Right? And these aren't dumb people. They just don't care, or they don't pay attention to those details, right? You know who I'm talking about, right? Hey, sometimes you get some interesting folks at the other end. If you've ever worked tech support, if you ever had that pleasure, you should. You should just do it for a week, just for fun. You know, you do get some interesting folks.
So much fun, Scott.
Oh, it's just you're like, wow, like what did I do ever in a previous life to deserve this week that I just had? You know, fun. Anyway, it's pretty neat. So, but yeah, the real challenge is if you're going to open up. If you're going to apply a target to a link, you better be sure you're doing it for a very good reason. If it's simply because you're like, I don't want them to leave my website, that's the wrong reason to do it, right? Good wayfinding, good user history. Don't pollute people's tabs. I mean, you know, if people, you'll know as you start to collect tabs on your browser, you'll see your machine start to slow down. You'll hear the fan spinning up. Whoa, my computer's really working. Well, you've got 50 tabs open, right? It eats up a lot of resources. So don't do that to people. That's not nice. There's nothing wrong with target, and you can use target equal new or target equal blank. There's nothing wrong with doing it. Just make sure if you are doing it, recognize you may potentially create a user interface or a usability problem, and you may confuse people. You may you may not be serving your needs ultimately.
You just said target view. Is that to do a new window rather than a tab?
I can't remember now. I think blank was a blank window. I can't remember now even what the difference was. Like this is back to the 90s now for this stuff. You know what it had to do? It had to do with frame sets. I don't know if you've ever heard of a frame set. I'm aging myself now.
I mean, I've never heard of target view before.
Yeah, it probably does the same thing now as was it the yellow one here? Yeah, because windows we don't really open new windows on people anymore. We open new tabs. Like, you know, I was developing the day before tabs were even a thing. And then you had window pollution on your desktop because people kept on target new and blank. Oh, it was nuts. So this is from back in the day when we used to have a page, and it would actually be something called a frame set. You'd have something called so you'd have a page like this, and you divide it up into three different. So one piece of HTML described the actual different windows and how they bolted together, and then you'd have another piece of HTML for your global navigation, or maybe this was just for your header, and you had this is a totally different HTML page loaded in here, and then a separate page loaded in for your navigation, and then one for your body content. And then when you link this, you had to specify what window you're loading the content into. It was a mess. It was a horrible nightmare. And the search engine just choked on this stuff. You'd often land on the home page without the navigation or the branding because it was a page separately from. You don't need that pain. Okay. We got through that. We survived. You don't need frame sets anymore. But that's a large degree. The target attribute was for those old technologies called frame sets. You might come across frame sets again. They do have their uses. I think the dev tools, like if you go in here and say inspect, the dev tools this is actually a frame set. Now we've broken this into three different window objects that are bolted together. It's a frame set. But you don't use those to build web applications very often anymore. They could come back, but never say never. Anyway, I digress. So, it's 2:26. Why don't we just let you have a quick 5-minute break just to get up and stretch. We'll scream through a few different other tips and tricks with navigation, with links, and we'll direct you to your lab, and then we're all done for the day. Okay? So come back to me in about 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap this up.
So the nav takes away that divide. That's all it is, right? So we do the same setup with the bracket. So instead of divide equals nav.
I actually never want to see you do this.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, so I would just shrink it down to nav, but still have the LIs and ULs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all this, see, we created the nav element because what happened was that with XHTML, the W3C proposed that we go to XHTML2, and they didn't consult anyone who actually built this stuff. I should put that.
Has anyone heard about that password
All right, so let's take a look at navigating navigating within a site in a little bit of a different context. So imagine we're in the footer here. In HTML5, I want you to just remember this would not be a div. This would simply be a footer, right? But we're in the XHTML in this case. Like I said, you might be working with templates that are XHTML. Tread carefully before you modernize them. So what if I wanted to put add a link to the privacy policy page for this down here in the bottom in the footer in the fine print? So that's cool. So in the footer then, we obviously want to add a link. So after this, we'll say href equal. Now the privacy policy page happens to be down here in the legal directory, right? So there's privacypolicy.html. So in order to get there from here, I'm in the index page. What do I have to add to the href? Right. So from here, relative to where I am now, I need to go into the legal directory right? I need a title, read our riveting reading, I'm sure, right? So there on the index page, in the footer, is a relative URL where the href points to a folder or a directory lower down in the hierarchy in the stack. So very often your information architecture, right? That those directories of files to some degree may reflect some of that information architecture work you're doing. Some of that's kind of faked by the web app sometimes, but it's important to have friendly URLs, right? So whereby someone could look at the address bar in the application and go, building block / legal / private. Oh, okay, well, I'm in the legal section of said web application or site, and that's where I'm reading, right? So it's important that these addresses here are friendly. Right? From a SEO, from a search engine perspective, from a usability and accessibility perspective as well. We're designing for humans and robots. Crazy enough. So save that. We'll head back to our home page. And, whoops, I broke something. What did I break? Oh, I broke something up here, huge. Oh, see, I added the nav element. My CSS didn't like that. End of div. All right. You didn't do that. I did that. I broke that. Okay. Cool. So there's our privacy policy. It is an unvisited link. It is blue. I'll click through on that. Ay. It got there, right? But what a mess. So look here. We've got our file. Right? Now, of course, we're in a local file system, right? But all of that in blue here would be replaced with buildingblocks.com/bricks, or maybe all of that. Buildingblocks.com/legal privacy policy.html. So let's go and fix this page up now, which is our privacy policy page. We were able to get there. That's cool. Now, step 6. In privacy policy, we're talking about relative URLs. So I want you to recognize this is where we're at right now on this page in the file system. I'm on that page right there. If I was to go to the green page, where do I have to go? Over there in my file system. Do I just go straight to the green page?
Back folder.
Right. So I have to kind of backtrack up one directory into the bricks directory and then into the green. So in order to do that, up one directory, / just kind of like you're in a terminal. Now, I could put an absolute path there. I could put https legoblocks.com/green.html. Sure. That's cool. Right? Because if I don't do that, and I click on this page, yellow bricks, it's not going to be found, right? It's not in the legal, yellow is not in the legal folder. So if I save this, file save, and then I refresh this page, you'll see these all turn purple because I've been there. Now I click on yellow, it goes back up to the main directory of the site. But this is only in the privacy policy and the terms of use page as well. Right? So change those paths so that they point back up to where we came from in the privacy policy page. It gets a bit crazy. All right. Step 7. Well, the style sheet isn't working for largely the same reason. Right? Where do we go from here to get the CSS? This here is looking for a CSS directory inside of legal. It's not where it exists.
Yeah, same thing, I guess.
Yeah, no tricks. Sounded like I was like a trick question, but it actually wasn't. Yeah. Same thing. Up one directory, into the CSS, into the styles. I'm not big on trick questions. They just test how much coffee you've had. All right, so we go home here. There's my privacy policy link. And now you can see the style sheet pulls up just fine. Step 7. Oh, I missed step 5. Blew right by it. Local navigation. Excuse me. So let's take a look at the privacy policy, which is rather long, right? This page is rather a long page. Let's say I get to the bottom of the page here, and I would like to get back up to the top where the navigation is, right? Particularly if I'm on a small screen, right? Actually, that's, yeah. It's not, that's a hard-coded, it's a hard width. If I'm on a smaller screen, that's particularly painful, right? You're swiping the screen, right? Like this, right? So what if I wanted to stay on the same page but navigate to a different place, okay? What I would do here is down in the privacy policy, at the bottom, I would say ahref equal back to top. Whoops. I'll turn on the word wrap. Oops, I duplicated the... All right. So add a hyperlink for back to top. I can use the ID values on a page as page anchors. I used to have to bolt physical anchors in a page with a name attribute. I don't have to do that anymore. What I can simply do now is say, I want to go back to the top. So what I can look in the code here, and I can see, well, the top of the page is here. I've got a div ID header. I can use the header as an anchor for local page navigation. So I can say, all right, let's go back to the top, and I can say hashtag header. That means ID. It means ID in CSS as well. I'd probably want to put a title in there. And there you go. Yep.
Some pages, I know have like sort of like a loading back to the top page.
Yep.
Something that's done. How is that in other programs?
You mean so you have a little button on the side here?
Yeah, like
With an arrow?
you're scrolling forever and it just kind of follows you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a combination of CSS positioning. So you would position that position it fixed to the viewport. So no matter what scrolls down, it's called position fixed, and it sits there. But you can also have it so it only appears once you scroll down a certain way. Because if you're at the top, you don't want it visible, because then you're like, I'm already there, right? So yeah, that's a combination of JavaScript and CSS to add that interaction. But in effect, the raw mechanics of that are this. You have to build in the base functionality, and then you kind of progressively enhance it with maybe some animation or some other like logic whereby it doesn't show up until you scroll down a fair bit. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. We're kind of building the little bits and pieces for all of these, and you'll see them come together sort of as you go, like, oh, okay, well that's where that came from, and that's where that piece came from, and you'll be able to add them together to make cooler and cooler stuff as we go along. Okay, good question. So now if I reload the page, there's my back to top, and if I click that, up I go right to the, I actually head right to the top of the header. You can see that's not quite the top of the page. If you wanted to go right to the top of the page, you could, what other element could you attach to? Can you see anything higher up? Yeah, you could grab the ID on the body if you wanted to. That's a little higher up. Okay. So that's cool. Now the cool thing is you can combine navigating across pages with local navigation if you wanted to. So for example, let's just say that I wanted to, so on this page is a section called use of personal information, but it's halfway down the page, right? Say I wanted someone to read about the use of personal information from another place in the website, but I didn't want them to have to scroll down all the way here. I wanted them to go directly here. So what I can say, well, this ID, I can copy this ID here, right? Let's go back to our home page. Where's my stuff? Okay. So after this privacy policy, I can go href equal, and it's on the same page. And then I could go ID, personal information. Sorry, I'm just hammering away here. I'll give you a second to get caught up. So there in blue is what I added. So the href would be the same as this one, but then I'd add at the end of this a parameter, which is the anchor, which is the ID within that page, which is that H3 with the ID personal data information. So that link will bring me to that page and then write down locally to that ID. Don't believe me? Nor should you. I respect that. Let's go to the home page. There's your personal information. And there you are. All right. That's cool. So concludes navigation, quality links, how to build them out. What I'll do here is I'm just going to pause the screencast. I'll upload